Welcome to the 8-Bit Instructor Podcast, a show dedicated to helping you level up your instruction in order to craft authentic learning experiences for both you and your students. I'm your host, Lee Tucker, a high school English teacher and ed tech enthusiast, and I want to join you on your journey to becoming the best instructor that you possibly can. So if you're ready, grab your adventuring gear and let's get going. Hey, what's up, 8-Bit crew? Today is Thursday, April 8th, 2021, and this is episode 35 of the 8-Bit Instructor Podcast. It's the spring break edition, folks. So this week I'm on spring break. A lot of you either maybe last week were on break, next week, in the coming weeks will be on spring break. So this is a little bit of a different episode. I don't have any featured content because I'm trying to spend this week just trying to relax and recuperate, re-energize for the weeks ahead, rolling forward to that finish line for summer break for this year. So I won't have any featured content, but we will have a lot of news and updates. I've got a lot of information that has come out recently. I do have a treasure chest to open up today, so I do have a little tip for you coming up later on, and then just some final remarks and thoughts that I've had going forward after spring break. So make sure to stay tuned for that. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at all of the different news and updates that we have in the education world. All right, so first off, we've got Screencastify has released a lot of new updates. So one, they've got a new toolbar that has come out. So there's a lot of new features on the toolbar. So we've got sticker emojis that you can use to add over to the overall feel of your video. You can use colored rectangles to highlight certain areas. So if you're talking and trying to get maybe students to focus on a particular part of the screen, you can draw a rectangle around it to draw their attention there. Also, just some more bells and whistles. There's a fireworks click now. So previously we had things like the spotlight, the magnifying kind of aspect. You could click on something and the little circle would radiate out from the mouse to draw attention. Now we've got fireworks, folks. So that's just a fun little way that you can draw attention to wherever your mouse cursor is. So look for that if you are a Screencastify user. Also, the new toolbar, a couple of really great features on it. One, it is now movable. So previously it was locked in that bottom left-hand side of the screen and would sometimes maybe obscure what you were able to see on the video. So now you can move that. If you've got something on that part of the screen that you want people to see, you can take care of that. And also you can collapse the toolbar. So it will go from that bar to almost kind of like a little square. So it helps to just get that toolbar out of the way, and then you can expand it whenever you need to use it later on. Screencastify Edit now has a blur tool, which is wonderful. So now we can blur out information for privacy and also for focus. So you can, if you got student information on a screen that you don't want to share, you can obviously blur it out with that tool. But also think if you are making some instructional videos for students and you only want them to see part of the screen, or you want them to focus on a certain part of the screen, you can also use that blur tool to blur out extra information that you don't want them to really pay attention to. So that kind of overstimulating visual stuff, if you've got a lot of that on the screen, you can blur that out to help them focus a lot more. Also in the Edit app, you can add title clips to videos now. So we can have those little title clips at the beginning. You can put them in the middle. You can put them at the end, just to give some specifics and title that video and all that kind of stuff. So look for that. That's going to be available now as well. And finally, Screencastify Submit is now fully integrated into Google Classroom. So if you don't know what Screencastify Submit is, it is Screencastify's way of allowing you to create assignments for students. So you can go into the Screencastify Submit site and you can create an assignment, you can give it instructions, title, all that kind of stuff, and then it will post to Google Classroom. Now it's fully integrated, so you can control all of those features, the title, the details, due date, all that kind of stuff. And it will post it in Google Classroom, and then students have a link that will take them to, whatever they need to record and all that. So pretty cool new little feature there from Screencastify. They get a lot of stuff that has just come out in the last few weeks. Next up is the Formative site. Formative has released a lot of new stuff as well. So first of all, for premium users, there's a few new things that you're going to be able to see. One is the ability to restore deleted items. So let's say if you accidentally deleted a question, you spent several minutes putting it together, but then somehow accidentally deleted it, you can use the 3 dots menu to restore that, and it's going to put it down at the bottom of the Formative. This is also good too if you change a question. So let's say you put a Formative out there and then you decide you wanted to change the question, maybe the question type, but students have already put responses in. You lose those responses when you change that question type, but now with this restore feature, you can use that 3-dot menu and it will bring that old question back along with those responses. So there's a little fail safe there to help you out and keep you from losing some of that student information. Also, in the premium features, you can record videos, so teachers and students can record videos. Teachers, you can record, you can upload videos to questions, you can add screencasts and all that. But now in the essay question type, students will be able to record or upload videos. So if you want them to maybe go a little bit of that extra way, creating a video, or if you've got it as a final project or something like that, you can just create it in the essay portion and have that in there with all the rest of your formatives. A couple more premium features now. They've made some improvements to the audio player, so you can adjust the playtime, scrolling forward, scrolling back to re-listen or move ahead. You can also adjust the volume more easily, and you can download the file now. So if you need to download it for future use, that will be available as a .wav file. And then finally, you can copy and paste images directly into questions. So rather than having to go through the whole upload process and all that, if you got an image available, just copy it, paste it, saves you a few steps, a couple of clicks. The free version of Formative also has some new updates. So one, you can now view your account activity. So if you're trying to remember something that you did, there's a account activity dashboard so you can see all the different things that you have done. You can restore deleted formatives. So maybe you thought you didn't need it, so you deleted it, and then you decided, actually, I do need that back. So you can restore those now. Again, just an easy way to not lose some of that information. And then there's some updates to the copy and paste alert. So some of you may have seen this already. If you're looking at the student responses, anything that is text-based, it will give you an alert if it has copy and pasted information on it. So a lot of times what I've noticed, like with my students in my English class, I might have them writing about a reading passage that's in the formative, and maybe they're directly quoting something, so they copied that sentence and then put it in quotation marks. But then it would think that they've copied information, plagiarism, and all that kind of stuff. So I'd have to read through it and figure out if it was or not. Now you actually have details. So next to that copy and paste alert, there's a link that says details, and it would actually show you which portion of the student's response is copied and pasted, which again saves you a lot of time, makes it a lot easier to find what may potentially be plagiarized or whatever, and then you can follow up with that as necessary. So, if it's just a direct quote that they pulled from the text, no big deal, but then maybe it is something that they copied off of another website, and that's, talk to them and all that. I won't get into my whole deal with plagiarism, because I know it's pretty contrary to what a lot of English teachers do. But anyway, that aside, the last thing that is available on the free editions is teachers and students can create avatars. So a little bit more of that personalization, a little bit of customization in Formative. Create your own little avatar. Moving right along into some IXL updates. So IXL now has checkpoint performance reports that are helpful, especially going into the end of the school year right now. So checkpoint skills is something new that they have recently put out there, where the checkpoint skills look at standard readiness by assessing students on their knowledge of multiple concepts. So think of it maybe as kind of like a unit assessment where you've gone over several different concepts and then they're looking at all of it together. And these checkpoint skills will look at potential gaps that students have in their knowledge base. And then IXL will actually recommend exercises to help shorten those gaps. But then you as a teacher now can get reports for your whole class. It will tell you kind of what percentage of students have mastered these different skills. And then you can click on individual students to see what specifics they might need to work on. So, you could pull that report, maybe give each student an individual report as you are, getting into these last few weeks, getting ready for testing and all that kind of stuff. So this is a good thing. It's good for unit reviews, I think, as you're getting ready to maybe give a unit test or just test prep in general coming up toward the end of the year. All right, several new things coming out from Microsoft. So one is the Career Coach that is now going to be integrated into Microsoft Teams for Education. So Career Coach essentially is going to offer personalized guidance for higher education students. So think freshmen in college coming in, a lot of times they don't know what they want to do. They just know that they were told to go to college, or with the whole idea that a lot of students nowadays think that college is overrated, that it's not for them. And so this would be a way to help guide them into navigating those career journeys, picking majors and all that kind of stuff. And that's going to be rolling out in May. So essentially kind of what it's going to do is it will help, college freshmen starting off identifying some of these career goals that are aligned with their passions, their interests, their strengths, and then help them find opportunities to develop the real world skills that go along with that, connecting them with alumni, with peers, with faculty for support. So just helping them along that kind of career journey and figuring out what they want to do. I know in my state in Georgia, we've got some career stuff that we do with our high school students. But, sometimes, freshmen in high school, a lot of times they have no clue what they want to do, what they're good at and all that kind of stuff. So it's good to have that stuff available at the higher level too. So maybe it's that point when they're freshmen in college, they're starting to see that a little bit more. All right, you knew it was probably coming. Immersive Reader, it's everywhere. So you've got Immersive Reader now being integrated into PowerPoint for Web and OneDrive, SharePoint, Make Code, so all those different Microsoft programs and all that kind of stuff. In PowerPoint, so it's not just, you can select the text that's on a slide, but now you can also select the text that's in the notes section as well for Immersive Reader to read into. So again, just making it more widely available. And then in OneDrive, you can actually launch Immersive Reader directly from OneDrive. So rather than having to open up a Word document and then highlight the text and get Immersive Reader going in there, it's just in the OneDrive menu now, and you can launch it directly from that. So that's a pretty cool feature. Again, making things a little bit easier, a little bit quicker to navigate some of that stuff. And Whiteboard.chat now has some new Microsoft integrations. If you don't know Whiteboard.chat, that has kind of become the front runner of these online whiteboard software programs, and it is completely free. So if you have not checked out Whiteboard.chat, definitely give that a look. I've looked at it a little bit. I haven't gotten too deep into it. There's a lot of stuff that it can do. It's a very versatile tool that you can use. And like I said, it's free. So that's probably one of the reasons it has become one of those big things. It does a whole lot more than things like Jamboard and all that can do. So definitely check that out. It also has Immersive Reader that's integrated into it now, so you can use Immersive Reader on the various types of text that would be in whiteboard.chat. But then the really cool thing is they are integrating it into OneNote embedding. So now you can take a whiteboard.chat link, you can paste it onto a OneNote page, and then it will render it as a live interactive embed. So that's a pretty cool little feature coming out there for OneNote and whiteboard.chat integrating together. And finally, some updates from Google Workspace. So the only real major update for Google Workspace is in Google Docs. And so now you can add and manage 4 new types of citations in Google Docs. They've added, or will be adding, it will be rolling out over the next few weeks, 4 new citation types, which include film, TV series, TV episodes, and miscellaneous types of citations. And if you have not checked out the citation feature in Google Docs, it's a really cool feature, super helpful, especially in my area in English when we're doing a lot of research papers and stuff like that. It is kind of embedded into Google Docs now, so you don't have to go to some of those third-party websites and then copy and paste stuff in there. In fact, I'm going to be doing an episode soon about some things in Google Docs that you may not know about, and some features that are in there that are super helpful in the classroom. So stay tuned to some of those future episodes and be on the lookout for that Google Docs. And this is one of the things that I will be going over, which is the citation feature. So pretty cool stuff. All right, so that was a lot of news and updates. I'm sure there is a ton more out there going on. I guess, ed tech companies are getting some of that spring fever as well. So hopefully that helps you out, gives you some new things to be looking forward to over the next few weeks. But let's go ahead and open up this week's treasure chest. All right, today's treasure chest is another little Google Slides tip. This is a pretty recent feature that has come out in, I guess, the last couple of months in Google Slides, and that is text fitting. And this is super great, and it's a time saver. It's a frustration saver. So if you are familiar with Microsoft PowerPoint, you already know how this works. If you've got a text box, it will automatically shrink text to fit into it. So sometimes you have stuff like in Google Slides where you need a big kind of title-sized font, but you're trying to fit it into a shape or something like that, and it gets too big, and you have to try to figure out what size font it needs to be and all that. Well, all of that kind of stuff is going to be done for you now with this new text fitting option. So whenever you insert a new text box, so you'll click the text box, you'll drag the square open. Now you've got this new feature. It's a little option menu box that's down on the lower left side of the text box, and it gives you 3 options. So when you click on it, you got a pull down menu. You can select either do not auto fit, shrink text on overflow, or resize shape to fit text. So you've got those different options now, which is really cool. So think of it this way. Like, let's say you've got a title slide, you've got a square that you want the title to fit into. So you can draw the text box over the square, and then you can select shrink text on overflow. And then if the text goes outside of the box, it's going to automatically shrink it for you to the best ratio possible. So you don't have to keep clicking through and figuring out what size it's going to fit and all that kind of stuff. The reshape size to fit text is really cool as well. So if you're typing out, like, let's say a paragraph or something, if you're designing some kind of like newsletter or something like that, you can set it to reshape that size. So every time it goes to a new line, it's just going to extend that box. But the kind of catch detail with that is that it's only going to reshape it vertically. So what you'll need to do is when you create that text box, you're going to have to determine how wide you want that text box to be. And then as soon as you start typing, when it gets to the end of that text box, it will start a new line, and then it will extend the text box down from there. So think of it as kind of setting the margins in a Google Doc, and then it's automatically creating new lines as you get to the end, and all that. So really cool features there for Google Slides. Like, I've been using that in the last month or two, and it saved me so much time because I don't have to keep going back and figuring out what size to make all these texts. All right, so like I mentioned earlier, I don't have a featured content section this week because we're just kind of dialing it back a little bit for spring break. So up next, we're just going to get a little bit of final thoughts and kind of reflections moving forward to the finish line for this school year. That's coming up next. All right, so since there was no feature content this week, there's not really a question of the week, but I did have some kind of thoughts and reflections as I'm sitting here over spring break. This is a good time to do some reflecting and looking ahead at these last handful of weeks before summer hits. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts, a few points of encouragement, and some things as we head into this final stretch. So obviously, testing season is coming up, and with standardized testing happening this year, nobody really wants testing this year, or at least I don't think anybody in schools want testing this year. I won't speak for outside of schools, but whatever. That's just kind of the reality that we're in right now. So going forward, keep in mind, if you're giving standardized tests this year, if your class has a standardized test that goes along with it, your scores are probably going to be lower. That's just kind of the reality of this year. But keep in mind, so are everybody else's. You're not isolated. We're all in this together. We've all been going through some of these difficulties. That's just the kind of year that it has been. It doesn't mean that you're a bad teacher. If your scores are lower this year than they were in previous years, that doesn't mean that you did a bad job this year. It just means that we were in terrible circumstances when it comes to education. The question to keep in mind is, have I done my best? That's what really counts. And I think most teachers this year, as difficult and as exhausting and as challenging as it has been, we have worked to do our best this year. So keep that in mind. Hopefully others keep that in mind as well. I know our state superintendent at least has put forward some things that are going to help ease some of the testing difficulties. So I'm super thankful for him and think he has done a great job this year of keeping in mind what teachers are dealing with in the classrooms and working to put forward some policies to help us out. So, hopefully yours are the same way. Hopefully your districts and your school admins understand all this and that they're being supportive of you rather than having, some of these impossible expectations. I think personally to expect test scores to look the same this year as they have in previous years, I think that is just not realistic. So hopefully you've got supportive admin and supportive district leaders who are going to see that as well. So hang in there and just keep giving it your best. As tough as this is, enjoy these last weeks. Hopefully, we've learned new things. This year has been super challenging, but that light at the end, it's getting bigger. Vaccines are getting a lot more available. I know I got my second dose last week, and it has been a little bit freeing as far as mentally. We're the finish line for this year. It's in sight. Just don't forget what you've learned this year. So this year has forced us to move past our typical classroom, whether we've been teaching online, whether we've been teaching hybrid, all this kind of stuff. Even in the classroom, like I've been face-to-face this year, all year long. But I've still had to do things differently in my classroom because, I can't, because of COVID protocols and all that kind of stuff, like students can't be moving around a lot in the class and all that kind of stuff. So it has forced me to rethink the way that I do some of those things. And I would just encourage you to make sure that, when we go back to whatever is normal, I put in quotes, don't go back to just everything the way that it was. Don't just do things because that's what we did before. Take these new lessons that you've learned and apply them moving forward. Make whatever is normal, whatever we go back to that is considered normal, make that normal even better than it was. Don't just go back to the way things were. So, we've learned a lot of new stuff. We've tried new things. We've seen what is necessary in education and what maybe is not necessary. So take those lessons and, finishing up. We've got 7 weeks of school left. I imagine most of y'all are somewhere along that same time frame. Make the best of it. Enjoy that time with your students as much as you can. Give them your best. And then let's move forward and do even better things as we go along. Well, that will do it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate all the support out there. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'm on Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, all those places. And if you know somebody that might benefit from listening, please make sure to share with others. And again, the invite is out there. If you want to share something that you're doing in class, get a hold of me. You can DM me on Twitter, or you can send me an email, 8bit.instructor@gmail.com. If you've got something that you want to share and get you on the show, we can talk about something interesting that you're trying in class. Even if it's something as a challenge that you have encountered this year that you want to share, kind of how you've overcome that obstacle, that could be a great and encouraging thing for others to hear. So let me know if you got something. Stay safe out there. Again, I'm proud of what you're doing. I'm proud of the work that you're putting in. Keep getting out there, keep giving it your best, and keep leveling up that teaching craft. And as always, until next week, may your sword stay sharp and your shields hold strong. Thanks so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and check out the 8-Bit Instructor YouTube channel for EdTech tips and tutorials, as well as other content on my website, 8bitinstructor.com. And of course, don't forget to follow me on Twitter @ComicSocks and use the hashtag 8BitCrew. See you next week.